Welcome to a Friday edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm your host, John Gonzalez, along with our NBA insider, Bill Reiter. And Bill, the final weekend of the NBA regular season is upon us. You and I have been on this show and on HQ, our streaming network, and on CBS Sports Network pretty much nonstop. And it's getting to the point now where, as our friend Chris Williamson pointed out last night, we have started not only thinking alike, but dressing alike.
So, John, you rocking with Bill? Because I know y'all both got on the same dang ensemble, the gray suit and the light blue collared shirt, button up. So you gonna stick with Knicks too?
Yeah, I have to stick with my guy. I mean, we planned out our outfits just like we planned out our takes.
Unbelievable. So let me tell you something about that. I know I can wear the gray with the blue. I never wear that sports coat. I never wear that color combination. I put on a blue sports coat, and then I thought, I bet John is wearing what I'm wearing. I'm going to switch to the one that he won't wear so we don't have this again, because it's been absurd.
Like 5 times in a row.
Yeah, 5 times in a row.
At least. It's actually pretty uncanny. And last night I did the same thing. I galaxy brained it, and I picked out a jacket, and I was like, I never wear this jacket. I haven't worn this jacket in months. I'm going to wear this jacket. What are the odds? As it turns out, pretty good. So we're in playoff form right now. We are in postseason form. We're jamming.
Yeah, we're in sync. You look great, by the way.
You're back at you, buddy. You're back at you. All right, we have a lot to get to, and we got to run through it because you also have an HQ hit coming up after this. So
yes.
In the interim, though, we encourage everybody, please download and follow us on the podcast, and then leave a 5-star review so that everybody can find us as we're building Beyond the Arc here. All right, later in the show, we're going to discuss the playoff matchups we'd like to see. There's already one there's 2 that are set, but one is more interesting than the other. But first, because it's the final weekend, and because there are so many games that matter, and so many of them have huge playoff seeding implications, we're just going to walk through all the games that could matter with our weekend forecast. And there are a ton of games on Friday, Bill. There are a ton of games on Sunday. There are no games on Saturday. Do we know why that is?
I don't know. And I was going through scenarios yesterday. I didn't even realize this. And I was going through scenarios yesterday, just looking at the various games but going team by team, right? What is who do the Suns have left? Who do the Kings have left? Who do the Warriors have left? Who do the Sixers have left? And it hit me. I hadn't seen a Saturday game yet. So I went to the NBA schedule. I don't know. You know what? I'll ask those guys. I don't know.
Find out. All right, tonight, Friday, we're going to go through the Friday games. Nets at Knicks. The Knicks beat the Celtics last night. First time they've beat the Celtics all season. Brunson was 1 point away from being the third Knick in history to have 40 in 3 straight games.
So good.
He's been so good. He has, by the way, he now has the 4th most points in a season in Knicks history. He passed Carmelo last night. In his next game, he's going to pass Ewing, who has 2 of the next 3 highest games.
That's crazy.
Kenny Smith brought this up last night, Bill, and I thought it was really interesting on the TNT broadcast. When we were talking about the MVP conversation last night and all NBA with Ashley, Kenny Smith was like,
I saw
Brunson's been, over the course of the season, the best player in the East. And I was like, that's an interesting way to frame this.
It really is. And it's funny because I had Tom Haberstroh, who I talk about a lot, because I think Tom's interesting because he just sees things in a very unique way, and he'll come up with these views that are sometimes in line with most people and sometimes way out there. And he also thinks Brunson belongs maybe on that ballot. I just don't, because when Kenny said that, I went to Basketball Reference. I'm like, let me just do a side-by-side comp. I know that's not the perfect way to do it between him and Tatum, but there's something to be said about it. Maybe I was captive of that moment of watching Brunson just be extraordinary against that particular team and those particular players. And there was a sequence where I think it was Jalen Brown who tried to pick him up early, and then they switched on. Tatum switched on him when he got across half court, and then Brunson just took him to the hole, and I think did a pull-up shot. It was one moment, but it was like he looked so good, and he looks
so good.
I think it's a down to the wire thing. I think he may belong on that ballot. I really do.
We're down to the wire here, and he is a huge reason why the Knicks have a very good shot to finish top 3. It would be the first time in 11 years that they've got a top 3 seed. Projection models have them at 71% to finish third. They close with the Nets with the Nets tonight, and then the Bulls on Sunday. Bill, they haven't won first round series in consecutive seasons since 98, 99, 99, 2000. They got a shot here. They got a shot to move up to 3. They look good.
And they've got the tiebreaker against Cleveland. Actually, they have the tiebreaker against everybody. I think they have the tiebreaker against Cleveland, against the Bucks. Again, not that it necessarily matters. And not only that, I'm in. Like whatever the status of OG's elbow. I know that Randall is out. It's not just that whole team's been banged up all year. I think I said this with you on HQ last night. I have all this lifetime accumulated through a lifetime of Knicks doubt and a lack of belief that has served me well and has been well earned, both as a fan and then as a media person like you. And it's over. I took all the doubt. I put it in, I threw it away. It's gone. I'm in. He's a winner. They're a great team. And if the right matchup, they should win a series. They should win their opening
They've
round.
been super fun this season. I hate to say it because as a self-respecting Philadelphian, I've been reared to hate the Knicks, but they're just a fun team to watch. I love watching Josh Hart. They stumbled onto something here with Josh Hart. I don't want to say that they're better without Julius Randle. I think that's a little absurd, but I do think that they have found something with Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart, where these guys were like nominal, better than role players, but they had a role, and now their role has increased. And in the course of that, they've been really good. I want to ask you, they beat the Celtics last night. Before we move on, Celtics have lost 2 in a row now to the Bucks and the Knicks. They've got everything locked up. They've got home court locked up. They're a little bit on autopilot. They got smashed on the boards last night. It does match a season high of a 2-game losing streak. That's the most that they've lost in a row all season. Any concern about the way they're playing going into the playoffs?
Okay, so yes and no. Concerned about the way they're playing now? No. I mean, these things happen. You're right. Their foot is off the pedal. We've had this talk, right? But I'm not a Celtics doubter, but I think there are unasked questions about the Celtics that are going to have to be answered if they're going to do what is a requirement based on what they've done this year, and which is make it out of the East. And I think you and I were talking the other day about the hero ball that Jason Tatum goes into, and it hit me. You know what it is? In the clutch. It's a Mamba mentality thing, right? So we're like, I'm going to be like Kobe Bryant. I'm going to be like my hero. You asked me if I thought it was a part of a plan or if it was just him doing it. Like I think it's him. I asked a few people, they don't know. They were guessing, they were speculating. I have in the last few days, I've really obsessed over these teams and possible matchups. I'm going to favor Boston in every series they play, but I'm not going to favor them by very much. And I think the Heat can beat them in a 7-game series. I think they can beat them. I don't know that
they should.
They can. I think I think your Sixers can beat them. I don't think the Celtics margin of likely victory is going to be at the same level that it should be. And let me throw one more stat at you that I got from somebody else, not my stat. Yeah, they're historically great, but in clutch time this year, they're just middle of the pack. They're just a average NBA basketball team. So if there are close basketball games, if you think the margin can be shrunk by the pressure or the Sixers being better with Embiid or because Spoelstra's great if the Heat play them, then that question about what is Tatum and what are the Celtics in those moments, I don't think that's answered yet, John.
They should, as we discussed the other day, roll through the East. If not this year, when? Because they do have the 5th best point differential per game in NBA history. They've been that good all season long. There's a reason why they have a 13-game lead over the second place team, the Milwaukee Bucks, in the Eastern Conference. But yeah, as things get a little tight, could get tight for them. By the way, to answer the question that we asked earlier, producer Aaron says it's because literally everybody in the NBA plays tonight and then Sunday, and they just wanted to avoid back-to-backs, which I guess makes it more compelling. But yeah, that makes more sense. All right, moving along. The Pelicans at the Warriors tonight. The Pelicans won last night. They looked really good. The Warriors squeaked by the Portland Trailblazers. Now, the Warriors did not have Clay and Draymond, and as we've noted, the Warriors have been really good post All-Star break, 5th in D, 8th in O, 5th in net rating. However, this is very interesting to me. The Pelicans have been the 2nd best team on the road this season. They're playing at the Warriors. I love this. They're playing at the Warriors tonight. The Warriors are about to finish with a better road record than home record for the first time in franchise history. I think this is a gettable game for the Pelicans.
Yeah, you said that on HQ last night. I respectfully look, every game is gettable. The margins, and we've talked about this, between the 1 and the 10, maybe not including the Celtics, but the margins are the narrowest they've been in the history, I think, of the NBA by design. And so the idea of the Pelicans and the Warriors being a toss-up, any of these games being a toss-up, is real. But I think like Nuggets, Timberwolves, this is a sort of pre-playoff game. It's going to have that vibe. It's very important to both teams. And if the Warriors win this game and they get some help, the Warriors can basically avoid Denver in the first round of the playoffs if they get to the right playing spot and they win that game. There's a lot of moving parts. I like the Warriors. It is a pre-playoff type game. And as you said, since the All-Star game, and I'll go further back with the sample size, since late January when Draymond Green was basically really back, they're, to your exact point, they're outstanding in all the ways you would measure a team.
Except for last night.
But even then, like, by the way, producer Aaron called it because I was watching that game. We were all watching it. I didn't want to text you guys. I didn't want to jinx it. And then I was like, oh my God, they might actually lose this game. And Aaron, in very, Steph will be Steph. And I was like, maybe. And then Steph just took over the game. And so, assuming Dre and Claire out there, I like him against the Pelicans. And I actually, John, I like them to get into that 7-8 spot and have a shot at the 7 seed. I think that is what is likely the outcome.
It is a massive game for both teams. As you mentioned, the Lakers, Warriors, and Kings are now tied for that, 9, 10, 11. They all have identical 45 and 35 records. So in theory, if the Warriors win tonight, they could move out of that and then avoid, if they get into that 7-8, they could potentially avoid meeting the Nuggets in the first round. That would be huge. 8, 9, 10 seeding. Yes. Thank you.
Kings have the tiebreaker against both.
Yes. But for the Pelicans too, same deal. They're guaranteed no worse than 7. If they win out, which would mean winning tonight against Golden State and then home on Sunday against the Lakers, they'd get the 6. Zion's looking at his first playoff series ever. He looked awesome last night. They're hopefully going to get Brandon Ingram back at some point during the playoffs. Huge game, massive game for these two teams. You're going with the Warriors. I'm going to go Pels. I think the Pels are hot, and I'm going to take them.
I love it. And by the way, you're right, just as big a game for the Pelicans, because what's amazing is the Pelicans and the Suns could easily, obviously one of those two teams are going to finish 6. They could also easily just miss the playoffs altogether, because it was it 3 years ago? Aaron will know. I think 3 years ago when the Warriors had 2 bites at this play-in apple and lost both of them. They lost to the Lakers in an opener, if I remember this right, in that 7 game. And then they lost to, I think, Memphis. And so if you are the Pelicans and you slip into that play-in, there's every possibility that your season could end up being over. You have a chance to avoid that. So you're right. There's going to be for them the same life or death intensity there will be for other teams. And it's going to be, I can't wait. Good for the NBA. These games are awesome.
Yeah, it was 2021. They lost at the Lakers and they lost home to Memphis in overtime. And as you mentioned, I forgot what day because we're constantly on, but LeBron was wrong. The play-in is amazing. All right, another game that matters big time tonight, Magic at the Sixers. All right, if the Sixers win out, which is home against the Magic tonight, and then home against the Nets on Sunday, and the Pacers win out, they're at the Cavs tonight, and then they have the Hawks, which ostensibly should be a W. Then the Sixers will escape the play-in and end up in the 6th seed. Now, for tonight's game, Bill, the Sixers are heavy favorites, 7.5-point favorites tonight. The betting odds definitely favor them. The Pacers, however, underdogs in Cleveland tonight. So how do we feel about the Sixers potentially escaping? You got to throw out a needle here.
Not as good as the Warriors seem like it's 70-30, and the Sixers feel like it's 30-70. What do the predictive models have?
20%. It's a little less than 20% that they get out. Okay. It's like 18%.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great. The Pacers are so inconsistent, right? It's hard for me to believe they're going to win both those games. And Atlanta, it's one game really
good. The Pacers, I went back and looked, and this kind of blew me away. They're 4th in net rating since the All-Star break.
That's
Celtics,
crazy.
Nuggets, and the Mavericks, who have been supernova hot, and then the Pacers, which I was like, what? How is that possible?
Wow. Are the Warriors next on that list?
I have to go back and look at that.
That's all good. Look, here's the thing.
It goes for net rating since the All-Star break. I'm just going to rattle this off for you. It's Celtics, Nuggets, Mavericks, right? Those 3 teams, obviously.
Yep.
Mavericks have been supernova. Then the Pacers, then the Pelicans,
interesting,
Wolves, Knicks, Thunder, and then the Warriors are 9th, and the Magic rounded out at 10.
There are so many good teams in the NBA right now.
So many good.
There are so many. But all the things we're trying to figure out, the reality is there are a ton of outcomes we haven't even talked about that are conceivable. A team can make the finals, certainly from the West, and I think from the East too, that will be shocking by the standards of their seeding, but I don't think by the standards of how much parity there is. I think this season may start to reframe how we think about the playoffs in the years ahead. All right, so I don't think the Sixers are going to get out of that spot. Now, you don't want to be in the play-in. You can fall victim to the same thing the Warriors did a few years ago, 3 years ago. But I really desperately want the Sixers to play the Bucks in the first round because the drama would be amazing. It feels like the 2-7 is the most likely outcome for that instead of the 3-6. And I think the Sixers win that series. So I don't think there's as much – look, the Sixers want to get out of the play, and I get it. But I just think if you're Philadelphia, it doesn't feel as desperate as it does in the West for teams. You tell me you're as a fan of the Sixers, because with Embiid back and playing well, you obviously don't want to be in the play-in, but you suddenly feel like you're great as a basketball team come what may, and that wasn't the case 2 or 3 weeks ago. There was too much uncertainty 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, these things tend to ebb and flow, the roller coaster day to day, right? I mean, the Sixers getting Embiid back and then looking good and potentially closing out the season on an 8-game winning streak. And then if they run into the Bucks, is Giannis going to be back? What kind of Giannis do you have? Yeah, I mean, I give them a shot in that. I also, we're going to talk about series we want to see later on. Facing Doc, their old coach, in the first round with a hobbled Giannis would be a great first round matchup. There's another one that I got my eye on though, and I'm gonna hold that off until later on in the show. 2 more that I want to run past you.
Yeah, before we move past, I want to do that. Before we do that, let me just say this because I've had time to ruminate on this, and I know we've hit it, but it's significant enough. I have not 180'd. I've just thought about it. They need to not play Giannis unless they're totally sure. I mean, that injury is so serious. And what happened to Durant when he came back from the same injury and then really hurt himself? Yes. And I'm not this is not rooting against Doc. I am actually worried about Giannis now and the combination of the pressure that front office is under in Milwaukee. My concern that Doc Rivers in particular and coaches in general are going to prioritize the short term, this particular kind of short term real window over a guy like Giannis's health and Giannis's desire to compete. You talking about it makes me so nervous that he's going to play and shouldn't and what could happen.
The injury to Durant in 19 where he was out, and then he came back in the finals and blew out his Achilles is a good one. The difference though is that like Giannis is made of, I don't know, adamantium, whatever they made Wolverine out of. They say he's going to be out for weeks and then he's back in like a couple days. It's kind of crazy. A couple more for you. Raps at Heat tonight. If the Sixers don't get out of the play, in the most likely scenario is that they will face the Miami Heat in that 7-8 game. The Heat closed with 2 at home against the Raps. So definitely like in their favor there. They're 9-6 over their last 15, 8th in net rating over that time. They've got Hero back. Feels like Miami Heat time right now.
I made a bunch of calls yesterday and talked to a bunch of folks around the league, and it's amazing how many NBA executive people just think the Heat are going to win series and just nonchalantly or have a couple are like told me they're favored over the Bucks, whatever Giannis's situation would be. They can beat the Celtics if that's the matchup. Maybe not favored, but I would, talking to a couple guys said I would take Miami. Maybe we're falling into the trap of what's happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen now. But to your point, John, that is the view around the NBA is the Heat are going to win some series if they get to a best of 7 series. And the view around the NBA, and this isn't rocket science, but is both the Sixers and the Heat are crazy dangerous. And you don't want to play either of those teams.
That 7-8 game is such a dice roll, man. If it ends up with the Sixers and the Heat, it's like when we're talking about all season long, the Warriors and the Lakers ending up in that 9-10. It's like such a dice roll.
You could have 2 teams come out of the play and make the finals, by the way. I know it sounds crazy, but you could easily have 2 teams. You could have 2 teams be the 8 seed, I think, and come out of the East and the West. I know that means the Celtics lose, and it's not likely. Not the impossibility that it's been in the past.
Potentially a bridge too far for me. We mentioned last one for you for the games tonight. We just mentioned the Bucks. The Bucks are at OKC tonight. They did stop that 4-game losing streak. Now they've won 2 in a row, 7-8 over their last 15. But OKC is still jockeying with Minnesota for that 2-3 spot. And now the Bucks close with OKC closes with the Bucks and the Mavs, and the Bucks need to win at least one of their last 2. So they got OKC tonight, and then they finish up with the Magic on Sunday. This is also a big game tonight.
Huge games. So it obviously doesn't feel it's all in the margins. Everything is close. It feels like it's going to be Denver Timberwolves, Oklahoma City, just based on what happened on Wednesday night with Denver and the Timberwolves and the remaining schedule for the Thunder. But obviously beating the Bucks in a big game is always doable, and it's particularly doable with no Giannis. So if the Thunder win that game and you get and things fall the right way, yeah, that Mavs Thunder game on Sunday, all these games are going to feel like playoff games. If
They already
Thunder
do.
win this game tonight, it's going to be amazing.
You came on and you were like, I'm tired. And I was like, I got bad news for you. The playoffs are about to start. There's no sleep until July. We're going to give you a quick break right now, and then we're going to roll through all the Sunday games as quickly as possible. That's next.
The PGA Tour returns with the RBC Heritage, April 20th on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Back to Beyond the Arc, John and Bill previewing a crazy weekend, final weekend of NBA games. All of them, as Bill mentioned, with it feels like the playoffs already because it pretty much is. And by the way, check us out on YouTube when you get a second. We're at Beyond the Arc CBS. Subscribe to our page, hit the like button, leave us a comment. We check all that good stuff. We've got videos galore for you to go through. All right, the Sunday games, Bill. A race for the middle of the East. You've got the Hornets at the Cavs. You've got the Hawks at the Pacers. You've got the Bulls at the Knicks. That whole grouping of 3, 4, 5, 6, totally in flux right now.
Wide open. I've said this a bunch. I don't want to be the 2 seed. I don't want to be the 2 seed if I'm in the Eastern Conference. So if I'm the Knicks, the 3 seed is a very comfortable place. If I'm New York, I'm rooting for, what is it? Milwaukee just needs to win one of the 2 of their 2 remaining, and they lock in that 2 seed. I believe so. That's what I'm rooting for. And that Bulls game is not an easy one. For the Knicks.
It's not, although the Bulls just did the Shaqtin' a fool the other night against the Knicks.
Yeah. It's not a hard one, but it's not the Hornets or in the West. There's a couple teams that matter that are playing Portland. It's not a total gimme, I'll say.
You got Bucks at Magic on Sunday as well. And we were just talking about the Bucks. The Magic here, the potential variance for where the Magic could end up is pretty huge. And the potential for heartbreak here is significant. I think the Magic, having been such a great defense this season, 3rd in defense, but just 22nd in offense. I mean, like, they're a little bit of like, I didn't expect them to be in the mix and relevant this season. Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero have been awesome. Jalen Suggs is an unbelievable perimeter defender. Isaac is an unbelievable defender, period. And like, I look at this team and I'm like, man, they're kind of like a little bit worse version of like Minnesota, right? They're a younger, good defensive team.
Cleveland a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Cleveland, what they were building.
If they slip out of the playoffs proper into the postseason, into the play-in, is that a disappointment for them, or are they playing with house money right now?
I think it's house money, but I think that if you're that organization, you really need just a best-of-7 series just for these young dudes to just experience that. I think that really matters, and so there's so much value. They're not coming out of the East. I mean, maybe I'm sleeping on them. They're not. But to get even one playoff series, I think, is really significant. Let me ask you this, because I can't get my belief around the Magic to be real. It's just not. But I just may be wrong. And I keep thinking about how Cleveland went 18-2 at one point this year. And at this point,
they did.
Give us take them super seriously in the East to really make a push. I don't. Maybe I should. Is it possible that the Magic are having a similar statistical anomaly good run? It's just now, so we're really focused on it, but it's not really who they are, and they're reverting back to who they really are. I think that's the more likely fact. I mean,
we have a full season of sample size on the Magic's defense. I think their defense is for real.
Yeah, so is Cleveland.
They need scoring. They need scoring big time. And I'm less high on the Cavs. I mean, like, they got Donovan Mitchell back. You know, that stretch where they went 18-2, for a big chunk of it, they didn't have Garland and Mobley. And I think this offseason, like, let's just say they flame out in the first round and they have another disappointment again, right? I think this offseason, you know, you're obviously going to push hard to bring Donovan Mitchell back. And if you do,
he won't be back.
No, okay, but let's just say, like, I agree with you. He probably doesn't want to stick around. But in the event that, like, there's a chance, he's going to have a lot of agency over who's on that roster. And, like, I think you might have to look at it and go, you know, some of this works and some of it doesn't. And maybe, like, Garland's a guy we could get something for.
More likely the Heat or the Sixers are going to beat the Boston Celtics in the first round of the playoffs if those matchups happen, I think, than Donovan Mitchell's there. Sure. I don't think that's going to matter what he has to. His agency is going to be whether he wants to be a Knick or a Laker or somewhere else. But you're right, there's decisions to be made. And I don't want to pick on the guy, but Kobe Altman, the GM, sort of celebrated a year ago, had a DUI to start this season, got suspended, didn't get fired. I like him. He's a good guy. He's good at his job. But I think the whole organization, you're going to be under a lot of pressure because that's an owner that's not known to be particularly patient or particularly well regarded sometimes in how he runs things. So I think the drama could extend to the coaching staff, to the front office, and to the guys that are on that roster, despite the fact a year ago, it felt like there was something real they were putting together.
Earlier in the season, before they went on that run, JB's job was potentially in jeopardy. Right. People were talking about it behind the scenes. By the way, we mentioned that Bulls and Knicks game and whether or not the Bulls could potentially be plucky there. Producer Aaron brings up a good point. One of the series that's already locked in is the 9-10, which is the Bulls and the Hawks. So there's a chance that the Bulls don't actually play anybody on Sunday and that the Knicks get a gimme. But you never know with these things because they can be a little squirrely. Other games that we got to run through, and then we're going to talk about the series that we're looking forward to. Suns at Wolves on Sunday. That's a big game. Lakers at Pels. You have Lakers media members who have, because they finish up with 2 on the road. They're at the Grizz and then they're at the Pels. You have Lakers media members who have no idea where they're going to be after the season ends, who just booked an open-ended ticket to New Orleans, and they're like, well, I guess we'll just wait and find out.
I remember doing that for 7-game series. I can't imagine having to wait on a play and just where am I? It's actually kind of fun. It was kind of fun back in the day. You feel like a wanderer, like a vagabond.
There were parts of it when it can be fun, like, covering the finals when you end up in the last LeBron series in Cleveland, where I was like, well, I wonder if there's going to be another game. Are we going back to Golden State or not? And it ended up, finishing up in Cleveland. But then the problem with that, not to the extent that the listeners care about how we do our jobs, pull back the curtain just a little bit. You all of a sudden have to book a flight out of Cleveland at 2:00 in the morning, and there are limited options. So it was like last just helicopter after the fall of Saigon, media members just scrambling everywhere. People going to Columbus and
but that's an amateur move. Just book the 5:00 flight, bite the bullet, sleep in, because everyone wants to get out of there early. It's always flights at night the next day.
That's the only one that you can basically get from Cleveland to Los Angeles is the 6:00, and that's the one that I did. But everybody else was driving to different points.
It also depends on your company, because if you have a company that like CBS that is not remarkably cheap, you can just book multiple flights with airlines that'll give you full credits, and then they just credit it back to your corporate credit card, and you're going to fly again some point. So that's the other pull back to just book a bunch of. I'm not sure you can do that. Just book a bunch of. I have a ton of hotel rooms back.
I'll put them all on your card. Keep your card ready.
Last you're one. Gonna pull an ePay. You're gonna pull an ePay. Yeah, this is Bill Ryder.
It's definitely Bill.
First class. Yeah,
Phil Biter. All right, last one for you. Mavs at OKC on Sunday. That should also be a fun one because we're pretty much we're locked into that 4-5. There's a chance, if the Mavs win out and the Clippers lose out, that 4-5 would be Mavs in the 4 and Clippers in the 5, but seems unlikely. It probably will be Clippers in the 4 and Mavs in the 5.
I hope the Thunder win tonight and that game against the Mavs definitively means something, and they probably will, because that is what a great sort of exclamation point to the season. Because you're right, I'm in. The sample size says it. Dallas is playing so well right now. They
look amazing. All right, we're going to take one more quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to look at the playoff series that we want to see. That's next.
At CBS Sports Golazo Network, we're bringing you the game.
Madness of Messi arrives!
Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Whoa.
And all day long!
24/7.
Welcome back. Bill and I are wrapping up the final regular season episode of Beyond the Arc. And when we come back on Monday, we're going to have some idea of what we're looking at for the postseason, but we're going to forecast this just looking forward here, Bill. We already know that it's going to be the Clips and the Mavs, and then we know it's going to be the Bulls and the Hawks. But beyond that, what do you want to see?
The one that I want the most is Timberwolves Warriors, because I am convinced that the Warriors will win that series, and we obviously would have a bet on that. And I want to see the Warriors have a chance to make another run. I want a Cinderella goodbye for Steph. I don't know how long he and this group of players are going to be competitive. I think they'll be together next year, but there's obviously decisions on Klay Thompson that the Warriors have to make. So there's a bunch, but Warriors, which I think probably means the Warriors have to win out and the Kings need to lose. tonight to the Suns. Am I doing this right? It's so hard to keep track of all this stuff. I think that's right. Is what I need to happen, because I think Minnesota is going to end up 2, and then the Warriors would have to move up. They win the one playing game that they play against either the Suns or the Pelicans, and then they play, in my preferred scenario, Minnesota in that first round. Be amazing.
Yes, we have a bet to remind everybody. I've got the Wolves in the first round, and you have some combination of the Suns, the Warriors, or the Lakers.
Are you sure the Suns are in that? No,
Yeah.
they are. I still want them to be
Which
anymore.
brings us
I don't
to
feel good about it.
Which brings us to the one of the ones that I want to see, which would be Wolves and Suns. If I have to have this bet come to fruition and have the Wolves play one of those 3 teams, I definitely would not want them to play the Warriors. I think that'd be the toughest series, followed by the Lakers. And then the Suns is the one I actually want, because I think that the Wolves will mop the floor with the Suns. They've been inconsistent. There's no way you're going to get the consistent Suns over a 7-game series. The Wolves have been so awesome defensively. Ant is playing out of his head. Naz Reid has been a revelation. You're getting
expected back tonight.
Tonight, exactly.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
please give me Wolves
All
and
bad
Suns.
news. All bad news.
I want to do one in the East too. We talked about Bucks and Sixers. I think that would be interesting because, it'd be the Sixers up against their former coach, Doc Rivers, at a time when they look vulnerable. They haven't been playing good. Giannis, you don't know what you're going to get. I'm going to throw one out at you, though, that I think would be more fun from an entertainment standpoint, but it would definitely be tougher for the Sixers. More fun.
Got it.
More fun for everybody in the NBA. Sixers get out of the play-in. They end up in the 6, and they play the New York Knicks.
Also fun. I'm not sure if it's as much. I mean, Doc against his former team, if his former team could beat him after that would, but I'm with you. Oh man,
Philadelphia and New York. You got MSG and the Maniacs at the center. You've got the 3 Villanova guys for the Knicks. I mean, and just that like traditional East Coast rivalry separated by 90 miles, have always hated each other. And then yes, Ashley and I on this show.
John versus Ash. All right. Let me give you one that is a bridge too far for you, but I think it's a bridge that could exist, which is why I want it. I want the Heat to lose if things hold to the Sixers in the play-in.
Okay.
Like last year, win in the second play-in game to be the 8, play the Boston Celtics, because I think that is a competitive series. And while I think the Heat can win it, I'm certainly convinced they can make a series of it and test Boston. And I'm really curious to see this juggernaut, and they are actually tested multiple times late in playoff games against a team in Miami that at least will believe they have a chance, and how Tatum and company respond would be a lot of fun to see early in the playoffs.
Also on my list. Heat and Celtics first round, also on my list, just because I still think the Celtics would win it. They should win it. They've been the best team in the NBA all season long. But that idea of testing them and being like, all right, look, you had a great regular season. Congratulations to you. An historic regular season. But now all of a sudden, here comes this boogeyman in the Eastern Conference that you lost to last year. And what happens if it is Celtics Heat in the first round and the Heat win the first game? And now, let's just say, please make this so delicious that they win the first game, and then there's like a day or 2 off. Well, there'll be at least 1 day off in between. But let's say there's 2 days off in between.
There'll be multiple days
just for media or for scheduling purposes, right? The national media and the Boston media just all over Joe Mazzulla for 2 days about what happened. Please.
Give me a yes or no answer here. Yes or no. And then whatever you want beyond that, of course. If the Heat beat the Celtics in the first round of the playoffs, is Mazzulla fired?
Yes.
If
you blow this after the team you put together, that is like undoubtedly the deepest team and the most versatile team and the best 2-way team in the NBA. If you blow this in the first round with home court advantage with that team, he's got to go. Hey, he has to.
Not a likely outcome, but it's not an impossible outcome the way if Chicago or Atlanta play the Celtics in the first round, that would be an impossible outcome.
I just love what a fantasy that is.
Oh my God. I mean, can you imagine Bucks, Sixers, and Heat, Celtics, and both those series at least being competitive enough that the drama you're talking about whipped up in both cases?
It would
Yes,
be
please.
incredible. One more, because I know you have to go. You have an HQ cut coming up
Yeah.
momentarily. I just think we have to mention this. We already know we're getting it, but Clips and Mavs, I am so excited for this. We don't know if we're going to get Kawhi back in time. By the way, he's already ruled out for tonight. If he doesn't play on Sunday, that would mean he's missing the last 8 games of the regular season going into the postseason. It's the 3rd time that these teams have matched up recently in the postseason. I can't wait for Luka's playing out of his head. There's the Harden and PG storylines. I love this series.
I mean, and the Mavs, not to the same degree, but obviously made a big and bold move to get Kyrie Irving that I think a lot of us doubted. I doubted.
You're coming around on him.
I mean, look, the data's the data, man. I'm not sure I'm around on him, but look, I've already seen
around on
the
the
championship. Yeah, I know what Kyrie can be in the right situation. I know it can exist. I thought LeBron was the sort of secret ingredient, but maybe this it's alchemy, right? Yes, it can work. And the Clippers have foregone their entire future for this group. Like they have done what the Suns have done. And so it's an interesting competition between two teams that have staked a lot on this moment, on this season, and on that series with all the drama behind it and all the personal stories and all the vendettas and all the narratives. It's going to be awesome. I hope the Mavs have home court because I want the Mavs to win that series too. Hope they get there.
We're going to get to our predictions. We'll probably walk through our predictions on Monday, but first we have Friday games, then we have Sunday games. It is going to be an absolutely wild finish in the association. Be sure to check out Bill on CBS HQ coming up. I'm going to be on Spotlight later on. We're going to be on all kinds of stuff. I'm not on late tonight. I think you're on late tonight. I'm on this afternoon.
So I can wear whatever I want tonight.
You can wear whatever you want. And I'll just be wearing the same thing off camera in solidarity. But for now, for Bill Ryder, I am John Gonzalez. We're going to be back on Monday with Ashley Nicole Moss to preview the playoffs. Everybody enjoy the weekend. And thank you so much for tuning in.